Hello America, hello Patriots. I'm looking forward tomorrow to going out and voting. Okay, voting for our new president. And it's a he. By the way, it's a he, it's not a she. Okay, Donald Trump's going to take this hands down. I think everybody knows it. The writing's on the wall. And I'm really looking forward to that. I think he'll be a cog in a new wheel so we can all move forward and build a better America, build better lives for everybody. Get rid of this cabal, this criminal element. And I want to see these people brought to justice too. I want to see them tried, convicted of treason, and executed. And there's a whole bunch of them. It's not just Hillary and Obama, and it's not just the Clintons. There's a whole string of people that needs to be brought to justice. All the way down to, we'll say, Sheriff Ward, Harney County. We will say Grasky, Harney County. We will say Kate Brown, Governor of Oregon. How about the judge, Judge Anna J. Brown? How about the Judge Gloria Navarro? All of them. Every single one of them. You know, I've kind of gotten like anonymous, I don't forgive and I don't forget. Not until this mess is straightened out, because there is no excuse for the things that these people have done. None. No excuse whatsoever. I've noticed here lately, well, I think everybody noticed that Sheriff Ward, Judge Grasky changed their tune. You know, oh well, you know, this is the American system, it's the best system we have, and we got to live with it. Yeah, now they say something like that, but before, what were they doing? Okay, they were abridging that system every way they can. You know, they were calling and pushing tyranny, totalitarianism. Well, everything's changed. In a blink of an eye, everything has changed. God came through, answered a lot of prayers. The federal government, with this 95% conviction rate, got their asses kicked. 13-0. All right? The people saw through the illusion. That jury saw through the illusion of Anna J. Brown and those prosecuting attorneys. And I say that, you know, Anna J. Brown, let's just say Judge Brown, she laid out the, you know, the jury, the jury law. I forget exactly what it's called, the jury handbook in this case. She did a decent job at that, and she made the correct statements that you've got to follow the law, okay? The law concerning conspiracy. But when the actual trial gets started, it's anything but. She was just constantly muddying the waters, and with the prosecution, constantly muddying the waters, trying to create this illusion. Well, it didn't work. It didn't work. And consequently, we had a great and wonderful victory. So that has changed everything. Make no mistake about it. This has changed everything. In Harney County there, you have the Committee of Safety that's really gearing up. I talked to Dwayne Trott. They had 160 members of that. I'll guarantee it's going to double and triple now, because the cat's out of the bag. Those people know what's been done to them all these years. Then you have over next door, you have Malheur County, where Obama is trying to push this monument that will displace 350 to 400 ranchers. How many families are on those ranches? It's not just one family. You usually have grandparents and the kids. The kids will have families, and they'll have kids, and you know, have grandchildren out on those ranches. So you know, it's not uncommon to have 5 families running one ranch. So when you're talking about 350 to 400 ranches, you're literally talking a possibility of 1,000 families. And what's the average number of a family? How many people in a family? Say 5. We'll throw it out for a number. So all of a sudden, you're looking at 5,000 people just displaced. Not to mention, the commodity that they are providing for America, this beneficial food source that they are providing, that will be taken away forever. The people in the cities, they need to understand that. They need to understand that they are directly involved in this also. So there in Harney County, you got a movement going that was started by the Bundys and the Patriots. All right, and it's starting there. It's going from county to county, and it's going to go from state to state. And all these people that are saying one thing and doing something entirely different. Certain sheriffs, I mentioned one the other day, Sheriff Perkins, who called the Bundys domestic terrorists. They're going to have to either resign or get on board. Yeah, the other sheriffs here in Utah, I got one up in northern Utah, says he takes his marching orders from the state. Baloney, you take your marching orders from the people. Not from the state, but from the people. Everybody's going to have to get constitutional. You're not going to be able to be halfway in and halfway out anymore. You're going to have to make some serious decisions to do the right thing, regardless of the situation. So, let's get on board. Everybody needs to get on board. I talked a little bit about the Patriots and the 3%ers and the Oath Keepers. Same thing. Same thing. You have an education now is how land rights actually work. Adverse possession, preemptive rights, prior appropriation, things of that nature. And that's one of the things I want to start talking about right now, because that seemed to be where people got hung up. That seems to be where the 3%ers and the PPN, Oregon militia, Washington militia, and other militias just got hung up. There was some confusion there. We need to eliminate that confusion. Now, why weren't the Patriots and the Bundys prosecuted under trespass? Well, they keep saying it's because they wanted to get felonies. The Attorney General wanted to get felonies. That wasn't it at all. I mean, yeah, they would have liked to got felonies, but that wasn't the reason. The reason is if everybody would have been charged under trespass laws, then they would have of necessity disclosed the ownership of that property, all right, which is not just in question. It is not in question. All you have to do is go look at the emergency motion filed by Mumford. All the case law that's in there goes back into 1930, something like 1936, with that land specifically. Jurisdiction was never was ceded back to the state. It was a very temporary thing, as I understand, but it was ceded back to the state. Had jurisdiction over that. Yeah, it was sold to the feds, the federal government, by a cattle company, and that was only for a short time for the CC workers to build those buildings that are there to this day. All right, what they call the federal refuge buildings, and but the jurisdiction was immediately ceded back to the state. So the feds never did have jurisdiction over that since something like 1936. And then Congress mandated that as soon as possible those lands be liquidated and disposed of. There's that word dispose again. Okay, if you have any question what that word means, because the very next thing it says, they're mandated to invite adverse possession. Okay, adverse possession. That is why the Patriots and the Bundys were not charged with trespass. They knew that if they were, this adverse possession would have to be brought out. Okay? Now they did try to manipulate it, the prosecution another way, trying to say that the Bundys and the Patriots were trying to steal the land. Oh, now how convoluted is that? Okay? which just goes to show how bad the prosecution was. I mean, they're just full of lies. It was unbelievable. That was just one. There was a whole bunch more. So that brings up something that I've been wanting to talk about, and that's DAPL. Go back to the original 1851 treaty, all right, and see what's happened to those Native Americans here in the Dakotas. Their land has been stolen by increments. The same exact thing that was taking place at the Malheur Refuge. 130 ranchers that had, it's over 130 ranchers, that had their land stolen from them, from the federal government, to make the Malheur Refuge. Okay? This is what the government does. And the same exact thing over a period of time has happened to the Native Americans in the Dakotas. Go look at that original treaty, the 1851 treaty. And these people have put up with it all this time till it's got to the point where now their back is against the wall. You know, they've seen what's been going on all these years. And now basically they want to take their water from them. They say, well, it's on private land. That land was never ceded to the federal government. But the federal government stole it and has sold it off to foreign corporations. To corporations here in the United States. All right? And it was never ceded to the federal government. So how can the federal government sell it off? The same way with the Hammond Ranch. Okay? Which they are trying, the BLM is trying to steal that. I think we've talked about this numerous times, how they first of all fined them $400,000, which is an incredible joke, you know, for burning some of their own grazing, 130 acres of their own grass, all right, and then charging them with arson terrorism, domestic terrorism. And then, you know, it comes out, the evidence shows that the BLM started that fire originally. They set a backfire to stop the fire that the BLM started. And then they get charged for domestic terrorism arson. Fine them $400, send them 5 years in prison. Allocate them $500 a month to run this ranch. Holy cow. There's not a household in America that can even begin to run a household for $500 a month. All right? But they're going to allocate them $500 a month. And when I say allocate, it's not even that. They allow them to spend $500 a month to run a ranch. They got to come up with the money themselves. Nobody's giving it to them. You can't be done. Who has a first right of refusal when that ranch goes bankrupt? Who has the first right of refusal? The Bureau of Land Management. See, this is how they steal. They're thieves. They're low-life thieves. And anybody who works for them is part of that mechanism. That's why I tell everybody, if you work for almost the federal government in any capacity, you need to get out, because you're part of a mechanism that is destroying people's lives. So, yeah, they would steal that ranch, and then the mineral rights had been sold off by Hillary Clinton when she was Secretary of State to this Uranium One, a foreign corporation. So they'd go in there and dig it all up for the uranium, poison the groundwater, poison the surface water, poison everything, you know, destroy that property for their nefarious, greedy reasons. So here we go again. Now we've got DAPL. Everything I've looked at with DAPL and this oil pipeline, primarily, you know, it's coming from the Bakken, but it's also going to be tapped into, from what I understand, other pipelines. Where's that oil going to go? Well, ultimately, it's supposed to end up in the Gulf of Mexico on the international market. So, who's going to make rich? What kind of permanent jobs are there going to be? All at the cost of destroying a water supply? And don't tell me the water's not going to get destroyed. You know, they actually have a vested interest, because you will find that these same people are connected to other corporations like Nestle that's controlling and stealing the water in California. They're all connected. All right? So, okay, let's destroy as much water as we can while we're at it. and then control the water, and we'll sell that back to the people too. So this is how it works, and it's got to stop somewhere. It's really got to stop somewhere. Now, I was watching a video this morning of the law enforcement, the sheriff's department, and whoever they got there. There's a bridge there, and it's been blockaded on both sides, and the Native Americans want to remove that blockade so they'll have, they'll be able to go to hospitals quickly. And the government is saying no. You see those law enforcement guys there? How many of them are working under InfraGard? How many of those guys are actually sheriffs? I was looking at them. The ones all dressed in black. I'll guarantee you that's InfraGard. Who knows who they are? You know, Interpol agents from around the world, UN troops. All right? This is the kind of crap that's going on in this country. And it's got to stop. It's really got to stop. If I might make a suggestion to the Native Americans, I will tell you how to have victory. I will tell you how to have victory real quick. First of all, worship your Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Put all your superstitions away. Worship your Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. No more eagles, no more buffalo, okay? It might be, sacred in some respects, but it's all based in superstition. I'm sorry. If you will, right now, put away your superstitions and pray to your Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for a victory, I promise you, you'll have a victory. Promise you. The other thing is, start exercising your Second Amendment rights. And that doesn't mean you got to go out and point your guns at anybody. Just carry them. And always be in a non-compromising position. All right? That scares the hell out of the federal government and this nefarious law enforcement. All right? It scares the hell out of them. And they will back down. I promise you they'll back down. And you don't have to point. You really don't. You don't have to point your gun. You have a Second Amendment right. Now I keep hearing you say, well, we're peaceful people. Well, since when does carrying a firearm mean that you're not peaceful? It doesn't mean you're not peaceful just because you're carrying a firearm. All right? Carry your firearms. You have a Second Amendment right. All right? You have the right to open carry, concealed carry, whatever up there in the Dakotas. Exercise your Second Amendment right and do not get yourself in a compromising position with them where you can be picked off. All right? Use some common sense. Use some tactical maneuvering. Again, it doesn't mean that you are dangerous. You are taking, when you do tactical maneuvering, it can be either offensive or defensive. All right? Tactical maneuvering can be defensive, and that's what you want to be. Is just be defensive. And wait them out. Just wait them out. The longer this goes on, the more the tide of public opinion will turn in your favor. And the more people you get there, the tide of public opinion will turn in your favor. These international corporations have got to go. They just got to go. They're destroying America. They're stealing us left and right. Now, if you don't mind, I'm going to look at some of my notes. I had a whole, and I may have covered most everything. I don't know. I want to get back to these. I want to get back to the Malheur Refuge. I was listening to some. When I was at the court in the trial, I got to hear these government workers that felt intimidated because they couldn't go sit at their desk and do their job. Did you know they did their job someplace else? Yeah, they did. You know, those jobs are welfare jobs. They're welfare jobs. And you had this lady, she was moaning and groaning and complaining about some stuffed crow, okay, that disappeared. Never mind Lavoy Finnegan that was murdered. Never mind the Patriots and Bundys are in prison. She's worried about a stuffed crow. Are you serious? Here you are, a misplaced welfare recipient, sitting at a table that you don't even own, that the people own, sitting in a building that you don't own, the people own. You're a misplaced welfare recipient, woman. Or how about the refuge manager? Worried about his jacket. His jacket, I still haven't got my jacket. That jacket isn't even yours. It's owned by the people. How disgusting. You got people in prison. About 40-something people were arrested. You have one of the greatest men ever murdered in cold blood, and you're worried about your jacket? This is the kind of people that do these government jobs. I know these type of people. I know some of them real well. Been pretty close to them. This is the kind of people that take those jobs for the most part. Not all of them, for the most part. Let's go back to DAPL. You see those Leos out there? I don't even like calling them Leos, you know, because really they're not. They're working under the color of law. But they're so uneducated, unintelligent, ignorant. They work off a need-to-know basis, and they're compartmentalized. You know, they're robotic. They do not have natural feelings and emotions. And they're just up there doing their job. Call them Fed coats, you know, blue coats. And I really question whether some of them are even American. I think they're Interpol agents working under InfraGard. And that's something we need to know. You know, I got their faces all covered. You can't even see who they are. This has gotten very common in the United States because, as you saw, a sheriff from Wisconsin, he just pulled all his deputies out. I think he knew what was going on. I think he knows what's going on. He pulled his deputies out, and I think there was one other sheriff pulled his deputies out. They know what's going on. Look up InfraGard, how the foreign corporations can subcontract different law enforcement agencies around the world, including the FBI. And that's what happened there in Harney County. That's what happened in Harney County. If you look at the videos, all those guys that had no markings, you know, sitting in front of the sheriff's office that wouldn't answer a question, those guys were working under InfraGard. They didn't, and here's the deal. In their mind, they don't have to disclose their identification. That's why they didn't want to go into Grant County, because it was a UN-free zone. You starting to figure this out? That was a UN-free zone. They declared themselves as a UN-free zone. That was Sheriff Palmer in Grant County. And his people, well, they're in Harney County. They considered themselves a UN possession, because they did not declare themselves a UN-free zone. You see what happens? Now they can bring in these, they can do the InfraGard for these foreign corporations and bring in the Interpol agents, including the FBI, to work for them, and they don't have to give their identification. That is why the dead man stopped. They knew that was illegal. Give them a little more credit than that. People, they knew that was illegal what they were doing. Okay? And oh, by the way, I have heard rumors. I haven't seen any evidence, but I've heard rumors that fabulous Fabio Menaggio actually helped in setting that up, because he is an Interpol agent. All right? They knew that was illegal. They knew that was a dead man's stop. And they did everything they could to kill. They wanted to kill all those people. Look at the new independent field forensic on that, how every time the people in that truck would scream to stop shooting, he shot more. Okay? Look how they started shooting at them before they even got to the vehicles the dead man stopped. Look how they started shooting at them at the first stop. Those were all unmarked vehicles. That's illegal. Okay? Except for if you're working under InfraGard. Everything they did is legal under InfraGard. You see what's happening? That's why Judge Darby called the Provost Marshal and said we're being invaded by a foreign entity. That is why. Okay? And that's what's happening all over this country. That's what's happening at DAPL right now. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. That's what's happening at DAPL. Okay? Up there in the Dakotas. Well, I think that's all I'm going to talk about at this time. There's a whole lot more that's coming. I'm really looking forward to this election, so I'll talk a little bit more. Okay, I'm really looking forward to this election tomorrow and having a big old party, and you know, but at the same time, people, let's don't quit, let's don't slow down, let's don't give up, let's keep the pedal to the metal. You know what? We should learn our lesson by now. How many times we voted, we thought we had a victory, and it turned out it wasn't a victory at all. That you know, the Republican Democratic Party is just it's just two heads of the same snake, okay, or the two wings of the same bird. So I do have a certain level of faith and confidence in Trump, but at the same time, he's never held political office, and we don't know what he's going to run into when he gets there. How much resistance is he going to run into? So that's why, you know, we the people need to have a grassroots movement to support him. And my whole thing of grassroots movement is the land thing, because land rights is really the basis of everything. Without the land, you have nothing. Without the land, you don't have natural resources. Without natural resources, you don't have industry, you don't have manufacturing, you don't have jobs. All right? Without the land, you are nothing but a pawn and a pauper. That's all you are. You control the land, if people control the land, you're going to control your local government, your state government, let's say county, state, and ultimately a federal government. You will control it. So it's really, really important we have continuous grassroots movement in controlling the land and jumping on these land rights issues. A big part of that, I'm still absolutely convinced, is getting the militias geared up, getting them to their proper position, their proper place. I've talked a little bit about that. I really feel like I have a good plan. I saw where we failed, the militias failed here recently. I have a great plan, and I guarantee you they will never fail again. I've mentioned it a little bit. A big part has to do with education and every person being familiar with the Constitution of the United States and knowing what their constitutional duty is, and getting away from having one leader over a whole bunch of people, because if that one leader is compromised, you're all compromised. So it's an education process where everybody understands the Constitution of the United States and takes that oath as a militia, as a member of the militia, as a citizens of the United States of America, to uphold the Constitution and defend it against all enemies, both domestic and foreign. And you know, this is the time to do that. This is the time to get everybody on board, because people are going to see how close we came to losing everything. And I mean, we really came close. This Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton, these people are demonic, and they're involved with a whole bunch of other demons too. Obama, demonic, and he's involved with a whole bunch of other demons too. The Council of Foreign Relations, demonic. I mean, people have got to understand that this is not tinfoil hat stuff, and it's being disclosed more all the time. We have seen on the news and the reports and what the FBI has come up with, and the New York Police Department has come up with the pedophilia. And I'll guarantee you're going to find out that they were doing human sacrifice, child sacrifice, you know, in the most insidious ways imaginable. These people were involved with, because that is Balaam worship. That is, you know, that is ancient Babylon, which they have resurrected in our country and around the world. And we got to put an end to it. So now's the time, number one, land rights. Let's fortify the land rights, and let's bring the militias on. Let's get everybody trained properly. Let's get them funded per the Constitution of the United States and per the Utah State Constitution, and let's never, ever look back again. God bless everybody. Talk to you later.